Hello, everybody. Welcome to International Bowl Facebook Live. Today, I have the great pleasure and privilege of hosting Coach Raoul Korner, who's an Austrian professional basketball head coach with experiences in basketball, Basket Clubs of Vienna, Austria, First Division, Mattersburg 49ers, Traiskirchen Lions of Austria, and WBC Wels, as well as EiffelTowers Den Bosch of Netherlands, BB Loewen of Braunschweig of Germany, and currently head coaching Medi Bayreuth of BBL Germany. Coach Korner has won multiple league and cup championships in Austria and Netherlands, was also being awarded Coach of the Year honors multiple times throughout his career. Raoul has a proven track record in developing top players, building competitive winning teams, and promotion to FIBA Champions League, top 16, as well FIBA Euro Cup finals, which was not played due to COVID-19 last year. Mr. Korner here is also Austrian men's and national team head coach, who was competing earlier in the 2021 EuroBasket qualifiers in Group F with Slovenia, Ukraine, and Hungary. His team is also nicknamed Das Team, Unsere Burschen, obviously in English that meaning our boys, our team, and our boys has been the slogan for Austrian men's national team. Raoul is also a lecturer at University of Bayreuth about leadership, as well as several national and international coaches. Coach, welcome to International Ball. Lovely to have you here. Hope all is well.
Thank you, Tom. Thanks for the invitation. Glad to be here.
Coach, it's been such a privilege following your career. I think last time we bumped into each other was at the NBA Summer League, just catching up. But now with COVID-19, everything is shut down, and every country, they're trying to figure out a solution to keep on playing. How is it in your end and in Germany, and how are you dealing with it out there?
Well, first of all, I'm healthy, my family is healthy, players are healthy, so I think nowadays this is the most important thing, being healthy. Country is shut down for a second time. I think that's pretty much the same everywhere. Shops are closed. You can only go out for a couple of reasons. The good thing is that we're able to keep playing. So the league has been playing, although no spectators, of course, and very strict restrictions on mask and whatsoever. Testing, we're tested 2 to 3 times a week. So it's definitely different. I'll be lying to say that everything's normal. It's far away from normal. It's very different, but we're very fortunate to having a job, and we're very fortunate to doing what we love doing. So between those lines, at least for 2 hours, 4 hours a day, we're back to normal, and that's a privilege.
I think Germany has managed the pandemic pretty well comparison to what a lot of the other countries, what's been going on. And also when the pandemic did happen, Germany BBL was actually one of the first leagues to conclude its season last year, was it?
Yes, it was. First, it was shut down. So they basically postponed it first. They said, okay, we just interrupt the season. We don't want to cancel it. And then they decided to hold a tournament, a season-ending tournament, kind of a playoff tournament, a bubble, where not all the teams participated. We were one of the teams who just could not afford to play in this because we would have to extend contracts and so on, and we had sent our players home because they wanted to be home with their families, which is understandable at these times. And we were just not able to bring them back, and without spectators, it was financially impossible for our club. But the league basically made it possible for each club to either play in this tournament or stay out of it. And 10 teams decided to play in it. They put together a great tournament. It was very professional, as you know, from Germany. I mean, the league is very professionally organized, and everything is on spot, so very German. And that's how the tournament was played. Fortunately, there were no COVID cases. Fortunately, there were no severe injuries. Some players or coaches were a little scared of injuries after so many weeks of not playing, not practicing, but everything went well. The tournament was a big success, and I think it helped basketball overall, but it definitely helped the basketball in Germany to make a statement. Hey, it's possible, although there's the world looks to be falling apart, but we can continue.
Yes, indeed, and credit to German basketball and how well that was organized. In terms of concluding the season, I follow the basketball, and I know how professionally it was conducted. In terms of just ending the season. But let's go back earlier in your career a little bit. Sure, it's been more than a few years, but let's go back to Austria Vienna. When you started, I think you were about 25 years old when you started in becoming one of the younger head coaches. Is that right, in Austria?
Yes, that's right. I mean, I've been coaching since I was 16 years old. I was a player back then also. I played in Austrian Bundesliga until the age of 22. Then I started to realize that my ambitions were bigger than my talent level. That's how I say it today. Back then, I would have told you a different story, but that's the official story right now. It was always, for me, I just love doing the coaching. I just love to teach. I just love to share my knowledge. And as I said, when I was 16 years old, I coached an under 12 team, and I just had a lot of fun doing it. And when my playing years were over, I decided, okay, I focus on my studies. Finished up my law degree to have something stable in my life. And when the chance came up at the age of 25 to take over the team in Vienna, that was just had moved up from second to first division, and I basically ran the whole youth program there. I was responsible for construction of the youth development, and we had built up, I think, a very good structure, having a lot of young players already in the first team. And since I coached half of those young kids who were in the first team, I had already coached them in the youth program. The back then GM basically asked me, hey, why don't you want to take over the team? And my university degree was in my pocket, and I had the unique chance to turn my biggest passion and my hobby into a job. So okay, I just did it, and that was 22 years ago. So it feels like an eternity.
Yeah, yes, indeed. I mean, speaking of youth basketball, I guess this is one of the passions that you've had, and and you're still doing it with your team there at Medi Bayreuth. Moving on, some of the work that you've done, but in terms of, you also won some championships during your time coaching in the Austrian Bundesliga, correct?
Mm. Yes, the first title actually was with the Mattersburg 49ers, which was such a big surprise for everybody that this will always be in my mind, my memory, in my heart, because this was actually an organization that was always going back and forth between second and first division. So they were kind of an elevator team, how you would call it. And I took over that team basically in the middle of the season because the former team I coached in Vienna, where I started out my professional coaching career, went bankrupt. Sponsor pulled out, and the team got in financial problems. So we had to basically cut the professional department and just continued as a youth program. But I was a professional coach, so I couldn't stay there, and I just waited for the first job to open up, and that was Mattersburg. I would have never taken that job, to be honest, if that was in the beginning of the season, but I basically had to jump on the first job they got available, and that was Mattersburg. And they had fired their coach after 3 games, after 3 rounds, which was very early, but a big chance for me to step in. And things just started to click, and we had you will like this, we had 3 Canadians on that roster, and those guys were so fantastic basketball wise, but also like as people, and from their leadership perspective. So we managed to win the cup, and this is still the only title in the club history. And 49ers already say they exist since 1949, and now are back to second division, unfortunately, but they're doing a good job there. And this is still the only trophy, and this is very special, especially if you can create a historic moment for a club. It's very special, and that was Mattersburg. The first championship title was with Wels. You said WBC Wels. That was my last station in Austria, the last 5 years in Austria. Also very traditional club, but traditional also for a reason, to never having won anything. So it was basically, was my job to somehow bring a trophy to this organization, and we managed to win the cup in my first year and the championship in my fourth year, which was another fantastic memory. Again, first title ever so far, also the only 2 titles, but the championship that was still means a lot to this whole city, because it's a basketball city. Wels is basketball first and soccer second, which is very rare in Austria. And up to today, when I go through the city, people come up to me and share memories with the championship in 2009. And so that's still very, very special moments.
Yes, indeed. I mean, basketball has always been very competitive with football, or soccer, we call it here. And obviously, football being the national sport, but yet basketball always is finding ways to survive and continue on, bringing an alternative source of entertainment. During the long winter seasons, fall or winter seasons of the Austrian weather. I actually had the pleasure of going to a few Austrian basketball games in Mattersburg, going back, and it's a fantastic atmosphere just to watch the game, the fans' enthusiasm, and just their passion that Austria brings in terms of basketball. But then you moved on to Netherlands. With Den Bosch. How was your experience then, coming out as a young coach from Austria, and then making the transition? I believe that must have been your first move coaching internationally.
Yes, it was. I had when I decided to become a professional basketball coach. For me, it was clear that I would not finish my career in Austria, because Austria is a very small market. Back then, there were only 8 teams. Sometimes there were 10 teams, sometimes 8 teams. The market is very small. So if you really want to make a career, you had to go outside of Austria. And I had a checklist made for myself. Okay, those are things I wanted to achieve, like being part of a national team, winning multiple championships, winning Coach of the Year, etc. And once also playing international, playing in an international competition, which we did in my last year in Wels. So when all those points were basically check marked, I decided that it was time to move on. And Den Bosch was crazy enough to hire a young Austrian coach. They were in a very difficult situation, because the main sponsor had just decided to cut the budget in half. And Den Bosch was always a winning organization. They had won, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 12 championships already before my arrival. So they were very traditional, still are up to today, a very traditional basketball highlight spot in Holland. And my job basically was with a very young organization. The team captain, Jos Fredericks, who used to be a player, was named sports director and GM. And he was, as I say, crazy enough to hire me as a young coach. And we were, as a duo together, fighting with a very difficult situation. As I said, budget was cut in half. In the year before, they were eliminated in the quarterfinals, and our job was basically to bring back success with half the money. And I think we managed over the months, we managed to establish a culture. Also had a team on board with a lot of very good Dutch national players. We just used 2 foreign players in the first season, and tried to build up a championship atmosphere again within the team. And it's always easier to work in an organization that knows how to win. I always had the feeling that from the team manager all the way to secretary to the physiotherapist, everybody really knew what it takes to win. And for me, that was a new experience, because all the other teams that I had coached before, basically was when we won something, that was the first time. And this organization had a winning tradition, and you could feel this. You could feel this when you came into the gym. You could feel this when you talked to people in the office, and that made it easier. And we managed in my second year there to bring back the championship to Den Bosch, and that was again an experience that you cannot describe. People were so thankful that we were able to get the organization back on track, and it was just a fantastic 3 years in Holland. I would never want to miss this time.
I'm sure, and you're most humble and modest, because winning the NBB Cup in Holland, and then I think your GM wasn't crazy enough, because you achieved the goals that you set up, and you have consistently proven that in your resume. With your ability to be able to work with the tough conditions, you have shown the traits of being able to build a team and help the team promote to higher divisions, as you've done with your which we will get into in Germany, the work that you've done. And then I think you moved on after Holland to Germany. You were with New York Phantoms, is that?
Braunschweig, correct. Yes, New York Phantoms. First of all, it was a very difficult decision for me to leave Holland. We had 3 fantastic years there. The fans were great. The organization was fantastic. We had players under contract who I really loved to work with. And everything basically was set up to win a couple more championships, play international, and so on. But it didn't feel right for myself. And I felt like if I had extended my contract, they offered me another 3 years there. And if I had extended that contract, I would have gotten stuck in my comfort zone. And I think if you want to develop, whether it's a coach, a player, or just a regular person, development only happens outside of your comfort zone. And for me, my gut feeling told me I have to leave this comfort zone and try to take the next step. And the BBL was the next step. Although by the time I refused to extend my contract, I didn't have an offer on the table yet. So I was in negotiation with some teams in Germany, but I didn't know if this would materialize. So some people told me I was totally crazy, leaving a great situation that I really liked for insecurity. At the end of the day, it turned out fine. Oli Braun, the GM of back then New York Phantoms, Braunschweig, took the chance on a young Austrian guy who had no BBL experience. I was confronted with that term many times. Well, yeah, we like your resume. We like what we hear about you, but you don't have BBL experience. So, well, yeah, I've never coached in this league, so how could I have BBL experience? But there were a couple teams who decided to go with somebody else because I didn't have that BBL experience. But Oli Braun was... I would say again, he was stupid enough to make that move and give me the chance there. And yeah, it was also for me, especially the couple years before in Holland and in Austria, I was part of some winning organizations and teams that really had the chance to win a championship or a cup, and came to a totally different situation where you had to be happy to stay in the league, and that was tough. It was tougher than the higher level because basketball is basketball, and you adjust to a higher level pretty easily. And whoever thinks that it's easier to coach on a low basketball level just has never coached there. It's not easier to win a championship in Austria than it is to win in Germany or anywhere else. That's just nonsense. It's the same. You have to overperform no matter where you go and no matter what the level. So for me, the toughest part was to lose 3, 4, 5 games in a row. I wasn't used to that anymore, but in this case, it was inevitable. We were a team that had its main goal to stay in the league, and we did so. Fortunately, in second and third year, we were able to compete for playoffs more than worry about relegation, so it got a little better. But this was the toughest part for me, to come from a potential championship team to a team that basically has to stay in the league somehow, and learn to deal with losses again, especially with a couple losses in a row, which nobody likes. not players, not coaches, not fans, nobody.
Of course not in such a competitive league like BBL. I mean, everything is so performance based, but you have figured it out. You have adapted, adjusted, and you have continuously been able to produce results. And so what and then you made another move to continue your career in BBL to Medi, I believe, Medi Bayreuth. How did that come about? And share some of your I guess your experience making that transition.
Well, I've stayed 3 years in Braunschweig, but basically found out that we cut our budget every year, and it was in a way frustrating because I felt like we had proven ourselves to could have been a contender for playoffs, but our budget just wasn't there. And instead of trying to make that next step financially and raise the budget a little bit that we could actually reach the playoffs once, it got cut and cut and cut and cut, and it felt like everything was put in my hands or in our organization's hands to basically you will do fine. I will stay in the league. Everything else doesn't matter. And I wanted to have a little more ambition. And Bayreuth was a place where I always thought they underperformed for a couple of years in a row. But they had ambitions, and that's what I was looking for. I was looking for ambitions. And although I changed from, I think, the 9th ranked team to the back then 15th or 16th ranked team, some people say, what the hell are you doing? You should move up and not move down. But I felt like I was moving up because of the potential of the organization of Bayreuth. And I think the history proved me right, because we ended up finishing 4th and qualified for Champions League, and just had a fantastic first year. Had a great second year where we could build on the success of the first year. Brought the enthusiasm back to Bayreuth. We made the top 8 in the Champions League. Once again reached the playoffs. Was the first time in over 20 years in Bayreuth basketball history, and we reached it two times in a row. So I think I know it was the right decision to make that move, and now I'm here my 5th year, so time flies.
Yes, indeed, and so does the journey. The journey continues with the fine work that you've been doing. This again, throughout your resume, your career, you've been challenged multiple times, and yet you were able to help the team and take the transition and making it to the Champions League. And then how was that? I mean, how was that? You're going against some of the top teams in Europe, and then boom, COVID-19 happens. What were you going? What was going through you at this time?
Well, that was last year when we played in the FIBA Europe Cup. We hadn't qualified for Champions League, but FIBA Europe Cup with the budget that we had was challenge enough. And we had decided, okay, as long as we qualify for an international competition, we're going to play. And that's what we did. And it was a FIBA Europe Cup, and we had a very tough start into the season. We once again had a total rebuild. We had some players coming off injuries during the summer, so we had a really slow start into the season. But the FIBA Europe Cup, which in general is a lower level than BBL, I think, helped us to create some self-confidence, to get a couple of wins in, to get in the game rhythm. We couldn't think much about the loss from last weekend. We had to worry about next game. So that helped us in that situation. We were able to really get on track to develop into a very serious basketball team. I mean, we had started out so bad that people were questioning if we would actually win a game. And we managed to do that and qualified for the Final Four. And when you're coaching Bayreuth, you really cherish the chances to win something. I mean, we've been in the Cup Final Four, we've been to the playoffs twice. But the realistic chance, of course, you always play to win something and also to win a championship or to win a cup, but how realistic is it? And in this situation, we really felt like, okay, this could become a very special season for us, because especially with the slow start that we had, to make a Final Four, and there anything can happen. We had a good momentum. Our team was really clicking, and we really felt good about our chances to actually bring the first international title to Bayreuth. And then COVID came, and the whole dream was busted like a bubble like this. So that was tough. That was the first time that COVID really hit me personally and got on my nerves. And that's and that's a chance. You never know when this chance comes back, and especially for a small club like Medi Bayreuth, are we ever going to have the chance to play a Final Four on international level? I don't know. So every time I get reminded of this, so thank you very much to remind me of that. I start getting a little frustrated. On the other hand, the situation is how it is. So there are people who lost their lives. I'm glad I've just lost the Final Four.
I understand completely. Of course, my intention is to recognize your success that you've had and the work that you put in to get where you did, the cup championships that you participate in, and that itself is a story on its own. But we won't get too much into it.
Thank you.
Negative feelings. But you started the season this year just completely awkward for everybody, all countries around the world. So how did you move into this season, and how has it been? How you've been dealing with the pandemic? You mentioned you've been, obviously there's always testing anywhere. You move right, testing. You move left, testing. So you're working in these tough conditions.
Well, first of all, we decided to start the preseason early because we knew that most of the players hadn't played until March. So there was a 6-month span where players were not able to even participate in any team-like practices. So we anticipated players not being in very good shape when they came here. So we started the preseason early. We did so, and it was, you could tell that players needed some time to really lose their rust a little bit and get into the rhythm. But it paid off, and we had a very good start into the season. The season started with the cup tournament, and we had played FC Bayern Munich, our EuroLeague contender, and we were able to beat them in a basically do or die game, which was a great success for us. And we felt really good about the team. We felt really good about our rhythm, how we came out of preseason. And then COVID hit us again. And we had 2 positive COVID cases on our team and had to go to quarantine, the whole team, for 2 weeks. And that was like pulling the plug. All the weeks we had invested before in a long preseason basically were gone. We had to start from scratch. Then the league decided to schedule 3 games within 4 days for us as soon as we came out. So we had, after 2 weeks of basically sitting at home, doing online practices with our athletic trainer, we were forced into 3 games in 4 days. 2 of those games were cup games. We played in small groups of 4. Everybody said, well, if you beat Bayern Munich, you're going to be in the Final Four. Theoretically, yes. Practically, no, because we lost the other 2 games coming out of the quarantine. We had no chance. It was just, there was no way you can play after 2 weeks sitting at home. So we lost those 2 games, and the next Final Four was taken from us thanks to COVID. So the story continued there. Then it really took us a while to get back in the rhythm. We ended up winning 2 games after this and trying to get back in the rhythm. But up to today, we're not where we used to be. And so the whole season it's especially different for everybody, but it's difficult for small teams, I think, because especially teams like Bayreuth, we have a big home court advantage. Our gym is always full. We got close to 4,000 people, sold out every game, and people are nuts. I mean, they're really enthusiastic about basketball here. So they're loud, they're crazy, they support us, and we're missing this. And there were at least 3 games this season already at home where we with the boost of our home crowd, you would get over that hump, but we just couldn't. And so right now we're in a very difficult situation. I mean, we had to cut our budget due to not having spectators for the whole season, and we're basically running on limited budget, and we just have to try to stay in the league and survive this season. That's basically what it comes down to. Although the beginning of the year looked different with that win over Munich, but you have to face reality and be realistic. And it's going to be a very, very tough season for everybody, for different reasons. For us, for basketball reasons.
Yes, indeed. And at this, during this pandemic, survival is success. And you have also been involved in a lot of, you've shown a lot of leadership, but you've also talked about the way you've shown leadership throughout your lectures at University of Bayreuth. So what can you talk a little bit about your philosophy of leadership when it comes to the subject?
Well, that's a long topic. Leadership is caring, first and foremost. I think it's caring about the people you're responsible for and caring about the team. Putting the team first, leading by example. You cannot motivate players if you don't help them reach their individual goals. You can never force a player or ask a player to buy into the team goals if you don't help him reach his individual goals. Leadership basically means taking responsibility and feeling responsible for success, but also for failure of the group, and stepping up for the group and fighting for the group. And it has so many aspects. All of that has to do with communication, has to do with dealing with personnel, having to deal with individuals. I mean, a basketball roster consists of different ages. Our youngest player used to be 16, oldest player 36. So that's two different generations. You have different nationalities, you have different religions, you have different upbringings, you have different social backgrounds, you have different individual goals. You have players who are on top of their career, you have players who are on their way up, you have players who are basically happy to squeeze 1 or 2 more years out of their career. You have very, very different individuals, and your job as a head coach is to unify those individuals and make them work together under pressure situation and make them cooperate and work as a team. And if you can manage to do so, you're going to keep your job, and if you don't, you're going to get hammered by the press and lose your job. So that's basically what it comes down to. And leadership is, in my opinion, just as important, if not more important, than all the X's and O's behind this. Especially in today's society, people don't want to be yelled at and punished. They need to be led. And as a head coach, that's your first priority. You need to create a win-win situation. You need to create a situation where the player feels comfortable and ready to fight for the team and for the club, and has the feeling at the same time that the club and the team is also fighting for the player. And if you can create this kind of atmosphere, you got a pretty good chance to succeed. And if you fail to achieve that, you're going to have a very long season or a very short season if you end up losing your job.
Yes, indeed. But through everything that you have been managing and you're going through with the team that you've been head coaching, but you also took that leadership with the Austrian men's national team. And obviously these windows have been squeezed in during this pandemic throughout the tough BBL schedule. How do you do it? How do you manage and to get into, from the coaching the team, and then during the pandemic, going out and coaching the national team?
Well, first of all, I see it as a big privilege to represent your country. There were multiple opportunities when I was asked to take over the national team, and and work with the men's national team. I always refused to do it because I felt like either I was at the point of my career where I just couldn't invest the energy and the time to do so, or when the setup of the federation was not right. In this situation, I was in a good spot with my club. I was on a long-term relationship with my club. I had an assistant coach, or I still have an assistant coach who works with me since 8 years now, so he knows exactly what I'm doing. We know each other extremely well. He could take over while I'm gone without any problems. So that's important also. You need a very good coaching staff around you to back up for you when you're gone. And it was one of those things on my bucket list. I really want to qualify with the Austrian national team for a big international event. Will we be able to reach this in 2022? I don't know. But that's not the topic. I felt like I needed to give it a shot, and the time felt right. Said, okay, let's go do it. And whoever knows me knows that when I do something, I don't do it half-ass. I try to buy into this 100%, and I hope I've been able to do this and put my whole energy for those 2 weeks that I'm with the team. Put it into the team. It's not easy because we've never practiced, so it's kind of like you start out that window. First of all, the first day you got to check, okay, who do I actually have? Our team looks very good on paper, but so far in those 2 windows that we've played, we had half the team there, and some very important players we were missing. So a small country like Austria cannot afford to miss any key players. And so the first window we didn't have a big guy. The second window we barely had a guard. So it was very difficult for us to adjust. So you have the team. You look at, okay, who do I have this time? Then you have 3 days of practice to put your philosophy in, and then you have to play those games. And it looks like we always start from zero. Then we build up, and it's a lot of fun working with those guys, and you really feel like you're getting better and you improve. And after the second game, you feel really good at where you are, but then everybody leaves again and you start all over from scratch. So it's a big challenge. It's a new experience for me also. I just wish I had a summer once to get the team together, work with them, play some scrimmage games, play some friendship games. We didn't have a single friendship game. We didn't have a single camp, nothing. We're just basically trying to squeeze in as much information in a few days and still try to develop an identity as a team. It's a challenge. I think we're making the best out of the situation. Did I wish it would be different? Yes, definitely. I really was hoping for that summer to finally have a camp and making some progress as a team. COVID again didn't allow this. But that's the situation. I mean, as a coach, you always have to be ready to improvise, and I think improvisation is the key word of especially this stretch with the national team right now.
Yes, indeed. But just a quick question. I know we're running short on time, but you got another window to play. I guess the next game is versus Ukraine. No, I think Hungary. And
yes.
So how, again, you look to juggle multiple melons at once. Obviously without the availability, Jakob Poeltl, Austrian NBA player, would have been a good assist right there for the national team. What's a realistic goal that the federation has for Austrian national team right now?
Well, I mean, we're headed into the last window, knowing that if we beat Hungary twice, we play them twice, right? Because of the COVID situation, the last bubble, Hungary had some positive cases, so they have to play 4 games now in this next window, and 2 of those games are against us. If they lose all 4 games, we beat Hungary twice, we'd be qualified for European Championship. Is that realistic? Not really. Is that possible? Yes, it is. So we'll try. We'll try everything to win those 2 games and then see what happens. What's realistic? Well, I think realistic for Austria is to build some continuity. We know we're not going to have Jakob in any of those windows. We knew that coming in, but we were hoping to have all the other guys there, and that we didn't manage to have so far due to injuries and some other issues. We have Sylvan Landesberg, who plays in China. He's not he hasn't been available so far. He would have been big help, of course, because he was basically the one who got us to where we are right now. I mean, if he wasn't there, we wouldn't even be in that qualification right now. Let's be honest about this. Rashid Malbajic, our key player under the basket, wasn't there in the first window. Tommy Klepas, one of the key players in the outside position, wasn't there in the second window. So we hope that at least we can get those guys healthy and together once, just to see where we actually stand. And I mean, we're not a team like France or Slovenia or one of those, even Germany, one of those basketball countries. You can miss 3-4 key players, you just bring 3-4 other players in, and you still have a competitive team. That's not the case in Austria. I mean, we in the first window, our starting foreman was a policeman. He did a terrific job, but he's not a professional basketball player. He's actually a policeman, and he was our starting four. So that shows that we really are forced to improvise if we don't have everybody on board. So what's realistic? Realistic is that we try to get everybody together, that we play a very good 2 games against Hungary and show that we can compete with those countries. We've showed that, we've proven this. We've played a competitive game against Slovenia. We just came short a couple points in Slovenia. We played a very competitive game against Ukraine and made a tough one all the way down the stretch. We can do the same thing against Hungary. We'll do our best there. And then it's basically about, okay, who are the key players? Who do we have to bring in and bring some continuity to the program, build a program that's all the way from top down to the under 20, under 18, under 16, get the coaches on the same page, develop an Austrian basketball philosophy. There's a lot of things that we could make an own podcast about it, but there's a lot of work to be done, and I'm happy to be part of this, and I'll be glad to do whatever I can do to help Austrian basketball, but there's a lot of work to do.
Yes, indeed. Coach, I won't take too much of your time. I know you got a practice to go to. I already gone over time, I promised. I apologize. But thank you so much for doing this with me. I wish you and your family good health and continued success. Any final words or shout outs you have? We're all ears.
Well, thank you. First of all, thank you very much for the invitation. It was a great pleasure to being on your show. What can be the final words in times like this? I think let's try to be positive about the situation, no matter how many obstacles are thrown our way, no matter how long this pandemic lasts. Let's stay positive. Let's try to stay healthy, help each other out. I think these are times when it's very important to come together and to show that it's not about you, it's about us, and it's about the community. And if we can get this one out of the pandemic, that we also realize how beautiful the little things are that we're missing right now, like meeting with people, having a head-to-head conversation with someone, or just going out, having dinner with a person you like or you love, and just enjoying this a lot more when we have it again, and realizing what the real important things in life are. I think then we get something positive out of these difficult times. So stay healthy, stay positive. Tom, thanks a lot. Same to you, of course. Stay healthy, all the best, and let's just fight through this.
Absolutely. Thanks again. Thank you for your inspiration. Thank you for your leadership. Wish you good health and continued success, my friend.
Thank you very much. Ciao.